Hi folks, I'm here again to give you a little do-it-yourself tip for replacing lower ball joints or lower control arms or tie rod ends or upper ball joints or any of that kind of stuff you have to do with the front end of a GMC Sonoma. This is a 1994 4x4 4.3 extended cab and recently failed inspection due to bad lower ball joints. So a couple things I want to tell you. I have a Haynes manual and a factory shop manual. They both have a different procedure, and I didn't find that either of the procedures were satisfactory or made the job easy. And as usual, I tried to do the job with removing the least amount of nuts and bolts and parts as possible, and in the end I should have just, looking back, I should have just taken everything apart, and that's what I'm going to tell you to do so that you can save the time that I had to spend figuring out that I couldn't take any shortcuts on taking these parts off. First thing I want to tell you is there is a 36mm axle nut that goes on that axle right there. If you have a big impact gun, a really big one, then you can use a 36mm socket like this, axle socket. It's got to be a deep one. You can use one of those, and it doesn't matter when you take the nut off. You can take it off any time because the impact gun will spin it off. If you don't have a big impact gun and you're going to use a strong bar, then you have to do this one of two things. While it's still on the ground, so that the weight of the vehicle stops the axle from turning when you try and turn the nut, or before you take the brake caliper and disc and all that off, so that somebody can be in the truck pressing the brake pedal while you work that. But if it's up in the air and the wheel is off it, then I don't know if it's a good idea to put several hundred foot-pounds of torque on this axle. And anyway, it's probably just better off to loosen it while it's still on the ground or use an impact gun. I tried to use a regular 36mm socket. It's on the other side of the truck, but anyway, not a deep socket anyway, just a regular socket, and I started to round the nut off. So my advice to you is do not try to use a regular 36mm socket. You won't get enough bite on it, or at least in my application you wouldn't. And I went out and bought a 36mm deep socket for $22 at Canadian Tire. Well worth it. I was trying to figure out a way to save the money, and then I thought if I round that nut off, I probably would pay $100 to get back to not round it, get it fixed and not rounding it off. So it's well worth it. And what else can I tell you? The second thing is, and this is probably not, I wouldn't recommend this, but if you're like absolutely stuck out in the woods and you have no choice, and you can't get that deep socket, the other option is to grind, say, 1/4 of an inch off of your shaft, the end of your shaft. This shaft sticks out way further than it needs to be. In my vehicle, it's about 1 3/4 inches too long. I guess that's probably used sometimes if it's hard to get the shaft into the hub, and you can use the nut to draw it in. But in my case, it just slips in and out. So I actually, in a moment of weakness, I gave thought to grinding the end off the shaft just to get my regular socket on there. Okay, so you have to take the, let's see, to get the lower ball joint out, it's a really pain in the neck job. And what I had to do was take the new one's in here already. Take the there are 2 bolts here and 2 on the other side of the ball joint. Take those out and take this nut off right here. Take this nut off. It's a castle nut, which means there's a cotter pin in it. So take that nut off, take it on and off a couple times, clean the threads up, and then take it off and turn it around so that not the castle, like the sharp part, but the flat part of the nut is facing down. And then what you can do is take a big hammer, 2-pound hammer, whack this spindle right here a few times, just to free up any corrosion, and then whack it up, like whack the nut, hit it like that, and then the ball joint bolt part of it will fly up. So you do that. If you don't have that option, the other thing you can use is a ball joint separator. And you drive it in there and you can see it's wedge shaped. And so anyway, you can beat it in right in between the ball joint and the lower control arm, and it will pop that ball joint up as well. If you give it a good smack with a hammer at first, you probably don't need to do much messing around. It'll usually come up. Second thing you're going to need to do is this guy right here. Forget the name of it. Anyway, control arm. I'm thinking, no, that's not it. Anyway, this guy. Take that same thing. Cast a nut, cotter pin. Take that off. Put the nut around. Give this a smack with a hammer, give it a smack up there with a hammer, and that'll come out. And then the next thing you're going to do, you already took your axle nut off, or at least loosened it. You're going to take it off all the way now. And the reason why you need to take it off all the way is because there's no way I could figure out for that ball joint to come out of there with this CV joint right where it is. So what I had to do, yeah, right there, okay. So what I had to do was I loosened the upper ball joint nut right there and dropped the whole spindle down, and then I dropped it down and then rotated it 90 degrees. Then I could get the ball joint out. Put the new ball joint in, rotated it back 90 degrees, pushed it in, and tightened that upper ball joint nut. So that's that part. Now, what you're going to, the other thing I forgot to tell you is you have to take your sway bar down in order to drop your lower control arm. Let's see if I can get the camera here. So this big, long, very thick spring bar that runs all along the front of your truck, connecting both lower control arms. The function of that is so that when you go over, say you're turning left, and more weight is on the right side of your vehicle, so the right wheels, this spring bar actually pushes up on the left side as well. So when you're going around a turn, it causes the vehicle to squat instead of roll. So that's what that is. But in order to get this lower control arm down enough, I had to get this sway bar control off, and you have to be very careful. It's an extremely powerful spring, and if you take the two nuts that hold this bracket off, if you just unscrew them, it has a potential to boing in some direction. No doubt it'll likely take all your teeth out. So the best thing to do is put a jack under it and just secure it and lower the bolts, undo the bolts 80% of the way, give it a smuck with a hammer and see where it's going to go, and then you can release the two bolts fully and then use your jack to lower the sway control bar. So once you do one side, there's really not much spring tension on the other side, so you still should be very careful, but it's that first side that's kind of critical. Okay, so the next problem is, once you're all done with your ball joints and you go to put this thing back on, you'll note that, well, I don't know if I can even get the camera in here, but anyway, there's the hole for the sway bar control bracket, and there's the hole there, right there, and there's the hole in the lower control arm. Well, this thing has to go there, and there's no way I'm going to bend that spring up by hand. So what I did, there's probably a GM fancy tool, but of course I don't have that. What I did was I took some straps, see those red straps? Took some straps, hooked it to the lower control arm. I've got the other side already done, and that's I've got this side not done, and that side's already done. So I hooked those red straps onto the sway control bar, way over there, as close to the end as you can get, because it's less tension on the straps if you can get it further out in the sway control bar. And then I brought those straps back, and in two different places I hooked it on the frame. And so like here's one spot, right about right underneath the driver's side mirror, and there's another one. Where's the other one? Oh yeah, right here, right by the mudguard as well. And so I used the ratcheting straps and I cranked those guys up. And I can tell you, if you want a quick way to lose all your teeth, you'll be on the opposite side of that sway control bar. And if any of those straps let go, you're gonna make an orthodontist rich, because I'm telling you, there'll be no teeth left. So now you're gonna crank that sway control bar back a little bit at a time, and you may actually have to take this bracket and move it in or out on the sway control bar, and to get those holes lined up. A combination of that with cranking the straps, and you should be good to go. Let me see. Oh, the other thing to tell you is the ball joints, when they're new, they come greased from the factory, but only enough for packing. I'm told that you still need to grease them after you install them, so make sure you do that.